Right, so while people are taking their seats, good morning all for the second session, second IETF session. So this is the Green Working Group. First of our two sessions, we've got another session tomorrow. I'd like to remind you of the note well. You've had one opportunity to see this, and maybe over the weekend. This is an IETF meeting, and everything you do in this meeting or by participating is a contribution to the IETF. So if you don't know what that means, it's worth going and reading the note well. I'll leave it up here just for a moment so you can glance through it for those that might be less familiar with it. And I'd also like to note really well that the IETF is a professional organisation, and we'd like everyone to treat each other with respect and courtesy. So far in the Green Working Group, I think I've seen that happening, so hopefully that continues. But a reminder that if you have any concerns, then you can speak to us chairs in terms of people's behaviours. There's also the Ombuds team as well. So there are different venues if you have any concerns or issues. But hopefully, please be polite and treat each other nicely as we collectively work on our goals. So this is our agenda for both sessions today. We've got a 1 hour session. We've got an intro by us. We are considering 3 drafts for adoption. So we have some presentations on those. We have some other related work. This is sort of out of order, but it just makes it more convenient in terms of the schedule. And then tomorrow we've got a session where we got some new draft proposals, but the bulk of the session is going to talk about the hackathon. We'll mention a recap of the interim meetings that we've had there in more detail. And we'll effectively also discuss and try and make some progress on some of the work we're working on. It'd be worth asking, does anyone have any comments or suggestions of the agenda? Are they happy with how it goes forward? Don't see any. We've had 2 liaisons in. Do you want to speak to these?
Basically, what we have is a liaison that came from the W3C, and I guess that it was because we had a discussion with them on the Bangkok, and is about letting us know that the activity of this group in W3C. I don't believe there is required any reply. We had a conversation with them already in Bangkok. It was clear that part of their interests were beyond what is our scope, and that probably they will be coordinating with this group and the sustained research group to identify the goals. In the cases of ITUT and ETSI, is because we send our, I used to call it hello world, liaison statement to everyone saying, here we are going to do this is our scope and our interests. We have received direct replies from ITUT and ETSI. And again, what they point us is to a set of work ongoing or already available that is potentially interesting to what we're doing. And well, this is if any of you is interested in this, well, the liaison, the replies are available, the references are available. If not, I can take the action that to share a summary of what they're doing in the list. So.
Okay. Just before we move on to this, so one thing Mahesh asked me to remind me is we had 3 interim meetings that I think were very helpful and fruitful over the last session. We will look at having some more informal interim meetings going forward. We'll discuss both what we discussed in the previous interim meetings and what's looking forward in tomorrow's session. Just to remind on how we structure our work and our focus, we're focusing on like use cases, to get a common understanding. We're not expecting that to go to RFC, but we would like that document to be adopted by the working group. There's some also foundational work in terms of terminology and metrics. that we want to move forward to. And then the sort of core chunk of the work I think of is like the modeling proposals and trying to get the data models defined. We'll spend quite a lot of time on that tomorrow, and some issues related to the framework together because they go a bit hand in hand. But the focus is to try and progress all of these. We think some of this can go in parallel. We don't have to do this in sequence. And so our plans are to try and build some consensus on these use cases, terminology, and framework, and then start to work or continue work towards a common data model, which we'll discuss more. I've encouraged people again to comment on the list, review on the list. That helps us progress our work quickly or more quickly. And you can obviously find Diego and I in Madrid this week, or you can send an email to Green Chairs and things. I'd be happy to chat to you. Any comments or questions on the chair slides? Otherwise, we'll move on. We've got a very tight agenda. So I think Emil is up first.
Hola. So, in brief, we updated the use case draft, and now the version 2 respects the templates that we discussed. And you can. Oh, he's making. Thanks. And so here, for your reminding, I recall the list of the templates, and the two we moved the material about the framework. They're now in the draft about the framework, and then there are two new use cases. The one on ISAC, and I insist a bit on the issue about the double counting risk, but I will not detail that now. And in fact, we consider that now the document is clean enough for working group adoption. And we'll try in the future to add more connection with the framework document about the gap of each use cases. That's it for me.
Thank you. So I asked Emil to be quick on this for our time purposes. It'd be useful to know how many people have read this version or previous version. So I'm just going to do a quick virtual poll for that.
So, thank you.
And I haven't put it in the name, but this draft Stefan Green use cases is the document we're referring to. Okay, I know people are still voting. I might sort of terminate it there. I think that's given us an indication. So it is an indication, certainly, that a reasonable number of people have read it, which is great. There's also a reasonable number of people that haven't. Maybe they don't participate so heavily in this working group. I think that we had one adoption poll before that didn't really succeed because we asked the document to be updated a bit more, improve the clarity in places. And it also felt like there wasn't that much feedback or support on the list. So I think our plan is to try and do a second adoption poll after this meeting, where we'll encourage people to actually really proactively comment on supporting the adoption of this document. The aim here for this document is not to take it to IETF last call to RFC. The aim is for us to bring it into the working group, work on it, maybe do a consensus check to check on the use cases that we confirm, and then have it as a living document while we progress the other work. Okay. So next up is going to be Chin on terminology, I think.
Morning, everyone. My name is Qin Wu, and so I present this draft, terminology draft, and on behalf of all the co-author. And recently we have Shailesh actually join our work. And why is this document in Green Working Group? And based on the Green Working Group Charter, one of the important goals is to define the term and definition related to energy efficiency metrics. And the work item, taken by this Green Working Group is produce information document, not only just define the common terminology and the metrics, but also we can characterize various different type of metric and measurement at a different layer, component level, device level, and network levels. And here is the document status. This draft has been around for a while, similar to the use case draft. And we present in the IETF 121, 122, and also the latest interim meeting before this majority meeting. And we actually received the majority support during the adoption call. And also, based on chair's suggestion, we need to get more review. So during the interim meeting, actually, we do get a lot of comments and discuss on the list. So thanks Benoit and Emil, Carlos, and Sarah and many others for valuable comments. And also, I want to point out, actually, we have GitHub already set up for this terminology draft to keep track of all these open issue. And so the latest version is version 04, and compare with the previous version presented in Bangkok meeting. Actually, one important change is we add one more new section to talk about operation and management ability consideration, and based on some IAG proposal, I think this is something useful section to have. And in addition, we add 5 new energy efficiency related terms based on comments raised during the interim meeting. We also updated 2 existing terms such as energy efficiency metric, energy efficiency management, and and also about energy efficiency capability. And we actually try to align with the framework draft we has already, we have discussed before this meeting, and try to make a capability definition, more concrete. So key contribution for this document, the first contribution is to define a set of terms to be used within the IETF when discussing energy efficient network. So this document not targeted to enumerate all the terminology, just focus on key terminology. And also we have a principle to we try to reuse all the existing terminology defined in the existing IETF document, and also cover some term in some other SDO. That's why Green Working Chair already sent a liaison to many different SDO to try to solicit the feedback. So it's useful to make the alignment with the different SDO. And the second contribution, we actually provide a list currently used metric and measurement method. So I really use this metric and measurement method to calculate the energy related consumption, efficiency ratio, and etc. And also we provide a list of SDO where relevant energy efficiency effort is ongoing. But this is put on the appendix. We think in the future version will be removed, but the intention is really to check consistency of our proposed terms and leverage existing metric. So we have liaison exchange. We can make sure this consistent, to take place. So for this document, the 70 core term has been currently defined. Actually, we highlight several terms, for example, energy efficiency observability, and energy efficiency control, energy efficiency capability, and energy proportion additive. This is change we made. Actually, two existing term actually has been updated for energy efficiency metric and also energy efficiency management. You can see the key change we made, in the latest version. I will not go into detail. Please, if you have any comments, feel free to raise. And 5 new term has been introduced, and you can see this is a new term we introduced. One of the term is about energy proportionality, actually from another draft, actually we incorporate. And but we make some policy and try to make it more generic. And so this draft actually we believe actually has been around for a while, has already in good shape. We also try to explore some other term from other draft, actually incorporate them into this draft. So we think we like the working group to consider adoption this work. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Chin. So are there any questions or comments on the document at this stage? Okay, so I think I've discussed it with Diego. First of all, I'll do a couple of polls here. I want to find out how many people have read this document, and also we'll then subsequently do a poll to see if there's interest in adopting this document. I think that this is serving as a good basis for the working group as a document going forward for sort of doing terminology. It is worth pointing out that there is also draft Pignataro Green Enviro SAS terminology 02, but that's a bit broader in terms of terminology it's defining. You did speak to one of the authors,
yes,
Saturday or Sunday, maybe, I can't remember which it was, who effectively said that maybe, yes, there's some of the terms that could be brought into this, but I would like to try and bring these two together and get something to progress. So while we've got some time, we'll do a quick show of hands. I've now lost it, so let me try again.
Hey, Rob, while you're doing that, I put myself in the queue. I debated whether or not to do this. This might be more for the mailing list. Joe Clark, Cisco. Chin, back a few slides. To me, some of your terminology feels mixed, and maybe it's just me, between efficiency in that you want to optimize energy use and usage in general. So for example, your new description of energy efficiency metrics, you said one of the outcome, yeah, next slide, please. One of the, yeah. Well,
sorry.
I'll see if I can remember it. One of the outcome, one of the outcome based, there we go. One of the outcome based, well, it was the slide before that. One of the outcome based metrics is unit of energy per traffic volume. And to me, that's more of usage and less about the efficiency. So to me, the metric of efficiency is being able to see that trend improving over time, meaning less energy per volume. So it's a little bit confusing, I guess, in my head about what you're doing to measure the usage of energy versus what you're using to measure the efficiency of the underlying system, let's say, that, like meaning the amount of energy per something, and how that is improving over time or getting worse over time. That to me is the efficiency versus just general energy use. And again, maybe that's more for the mailing list.
Yeah, that's a good comment, actually. I think for energy efficiency, before we have this term, actually, we may already have some energy usage related metric like a PUE, more focused on energy usage. But now, actually, for energy efficiency, they take into account more factor, for example, throughput or traffic throughput. So to try to, consider not just the energy usage or energy consumption data, but also traffic throughput, to measure this kind of efficiency based on this to optimize. So I think if you see any text is not clear, we can definitely we can improve for the text. But that's my understanding. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. And actually, if you can repeat that comment to the list or send to the list, that would also be great as well, because that will encourage folks to discuss it there. So I'm going to turn to the first show of hands. So it looks like we've had a reasonable number of people who have read this draft. So 24 have, 12 haven't. But again, turning the scope of the working group, that's not necessarily a surprise. So I'm going to move on to a second poll, which is going to ask if people think we are ready to adopt this document. So that's running. So if you support the adoption of this document, and we'll have to confirm this from the list, obviously, but if you support that, vote yes. If you're opposed to this, so you're saying, no, we don't think we should adopt this document at this stage, it'd be good if you're willing to come to the mic line and explain why you're opposed, what things you think is necessary before we adopt this. And feel free to come to the mic line while the poll's running if you want. Okay, so it looks like we have pretty good support for adopting this. And the no's have disappeared, which is interesting. Good, fine. So we will take this to list for confirmation. Please, when we put the poll onto the list, please respond to that as well. So it's great that we have an in-room indication, but the last time we had a strong in-room indication for adopting a document, but then very little support on list, and that made it difficult for us. So it helps us if we can see that support on the Green Working Group mailing list. So we will take this afterwards, unless, Mahesh, your comment is directly applicable.
No, actually, my comment was regarding the previous draft. Since you had a poll on this, did you want to have a similar poll for the use case draft to see whether there's interest in adopting it?
I think we ran that poll previously at a previous IETF meeting, and there was support there. Okay. We ran the poll, the adoption poll on the list, and there was some pushback just from one person who was saying needed another revision, more updates, which True. I think was a fair comment. So I think we don't need to do that poll again now. I think it's sufficient to do it on the list. I think we are. Okay. We're already satisfied that we think there's enough support and interest. Okay.
Just to make sure that yes, there was a poll, and yes, there was not sufficient support. I just wanted to make sure that there is enough. So, well, we can gauge it on the mailing list.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Benoit, you're up next.
All right, so let's discuss the framework. Thank you. This is joint work with Louis, Jan, Marisol, Emil, Chin, and myself. So what I put at the bottom there is the timeline, because actually this draft was created first after the last IETF meeting, the on-site one, but it was presented already one or twice in the interim meetings. So I want to show here the architecture, right? We've got like this figure. We've got at the top the network domain level, because we want to be able to get like the energy and power on the domain level. If we go down, we've got the controller, collection, compute, aggregate. But what I want to show, because it was discussed in one of the interim meetings before, is that at the bottom, you've got on the left-hand side on the screen, the power supply. And if you've got the legacy device on the right-hand side, you need to have a sensor in the middle telling, I'm going to meter on behalf of the legacy device. And somehow, if you put a sensor there, you have to tell that you're metering for a specific remote device. The issue we have in terms of power distribution is that there is no CDP or LLDP. There is no way to discover the power distribution topology. So somehow in this situation, we must have what you have at the bottom in blue, the metering relationship where the energy object, which is the physical meter, is metering on behalf of the legacy device there. So the thing in blue are the terms that we introduce in the framework. If we go to the next stage, maybe you have like a PoE device there, right? So we've got a device here with a port, and next attached to it, there is an IP phone, there is a camera, there is whatever you could be powering up with PoE. So this is a switch port there, and we've got interface DEF. So if you look in the document, this is about device capabilities. First one, it's about monitoring. Second one, and controlling. I could just shut down a port. But there is a consequence because whatever is attached to it and power over Ethernet will be down, obviously. So that's why we need to have the concept of power source relationship here, right? And between the power outlet, which is actually a switch port, and a power inlet, which is whatever you connect to it. So regardless of what we want to do in the modeling, we need to have those concepts right. So that's why we define this power source relationship there, right? And in some cases, well, you could also do something directly on the, let's say, the PoE attached access point. There are also ways to optimize the access point, or to control the access point, or to monitor the access point. So we define power outlet, inlet, the power states. We're going to come back to that because actually maybe there are multiple states I could be setting on this port switch. So the example of the smart PDU is the one that I like because that's something that we have in data centers, and that's something that was discussed in the hackathon, where we have a smart PDU and we're going to connect devices to it, typically servers. And if you want to meter exactly, then you say this power outlet from a smart PDU is giving power, metering power and giving power to another device. But simply this simple example shows and proves the point that we must have those relationships in place, because the power distribution topology isn't the same one as the network topology. Let me see if I've got this. All right. And in this example, what I want to show is what was discussed in the hackathon. Maybe I missed a slide about it, but that's a fact that if now I'm a network operator and I want to see, the first thing is always like, how much do I consume in my network? So I need to do the sum of all the components in my network. What is a small issue here? And I thought I had a slide about it, but no, I don't, whatever. It means that if I do the sum of the consumption of all my components here, right? Then in this case, it's very easy to be misled. So I've got like a host there. Well, I could get like the power and energy consumption, but I've got also a smart PDU. So the thing we've been trying to demonstrate at the hackathon is that you could do mistake by double counting. So unless you know what I've been describing, the relationship here, which is that I also meter on behalf of that one, then you will have a problem. Okay, so yeah, all right, good. So now we discussed also like the inventory of the capabilities, right? What can we do with devices, or in which power states they are? So in the figure, we've got multiple ways to do it. On the network level, which is interface, let's start from the bottom, right? How do I discover what a device is able to do, either for configuration, just monitoring, right? So you are in sleep mode. What does sleep mode means for you? A switch, a PC, a router, you name it. So how do you discover that? So this is what we've been discussing as well. What we've been adding in the version 3, that's the notion of power states. What I just mentioned, you're in hibernate, in sleep mode, in whatever mode you want. What does it imply in terms of services? What does it imply in terms of energy? What we've been adding in the version 4, some more text exactly on this, how to do the capability discovery. The intent mapping, because in the end, what do we want? We want to have a specific intent for the network. I want to reduce energy. Well, what does it mean? How do I do from this intent to actually setting a specific power state? The SLA consideration, because we could say we just want to optimize energy. Yes, but there is an impact. Maybe you will go into a mode where you will have extra delay for the packet, and that's fine. You reduce the energy, but there's extra delay for the packets. Maybe you'll go to another state where there is extra delay and some packet loss, but there is retransmit, I don't know, whatever. The point is that there is an impact on the SLA that you have. Well, if you've got a line card and it's fully redundant, but you go to, okay, I'll go to secondary, we'll go to lower power states. So, but it takes a few seconds to boot, for example. So the notion of SLA is also important. So what I want to do with the next 2 slides is, this slide, by the way, comes from one of the interim meetings done by the workgroup chairs. And there are a couple of questions there. Maybe I don't want to read all of them, Rob, but I want to say that those questions, we will have to answer them, and it's going to impact the data modeling aspect. It's going to impact also the framework. So either we could solve it in the framework, but actually maybe discussion tomorrow is the best place to have all of these. But typically, think about those. Maybe let's not address this now, but level of, okay, number 2, layer of model. Do we need device, network, service, inventory, topology? How much granularity? People say, I just need 2 states. Optimize, not optimize, on, off. If I speak to people, people say 4. People say 10. The notion of intent. How to monitor generic components. How to aggregate the data. Because something I have not mentioned, which is in draft, is that this sensor I've been mentioning maybe is monitoring what's on the line for multiple devices. So you not only have a metering relationship, but also an aggregation relationship. And we've been adding, and this is my last slide, a couple of open issues also in the document about discovering capabilities. And then the detection of power-saving features. Understanding capabilities, because if I query a component, an energy object, as we call it in the framework, it says I go in mode blah. But what does it mean? This is something which is vendor specific. Do we want to go into defining this? It's going to be difficult, but we need to understand in which state we're going to go, what are the consequences, so that we could go to the next point, which is mapping the intent that I want out of the device, out of the network, out of the service, into an actual configuration. Discussing with some of you during the hackathon, we believe that one of the key things for monitoring is how do we identify a component and what you call an energy object. And there are multiple ways. There is the hardware YANG module. There is also CMAP, which is defining a termination point, a link ID, a node ID, network ID. There is also IV, where there is like a UUID. So if we go with the first step, which is monitoring, we believe that we should take one of those IDs, and hopefully they will be linked, and not invent yet another one, because the linking of data in operation is actually a real pain. And with the last question, the last question is, when we brainstorm about that, maybe we should focus first on the monitoring, right? And discovering the capabilities of the devices, as opposed to try to say, we're going to discuss the configuration of power sets. Because maybe in the end, what we want to do, it would be easier, is to have the routers and the company in general having their own optimization. So if we start by just the monitoring, it might be easier. And I propose to stop here and not go in more details.
Perfect. So thank you, Benoit. So we've got a couple of more minutes left, which I want to keep. So I want to again do another poll of hands in the room. So if you've got any questions, then now's the time to come to the mic line, please, and ask Benoit. So this document's relatively new. It's like, is it 3-4 months old? You have multiple versions?
Yes, it's a version 4, and the first one was posted in May.
So I'm going to do a show of hands to find out how many people have read any of these versions of these documents. We also discussed, this was presented at one of the interim meetings. We did a similar poll of hands, and there seemed to be good support in that having a framework document was useful. I don't know if we went to this stage of saying whether this is a good basis or not, but we felt that's important. Now, we know this is a new draft. I think it'd be premature to ask for adoption right at this stage, but I think it's fair to say that the chairs see this as sort of potentially an upcoming candidate for adoption. So I would definitely encourage people to read it and to provide comments to this on the list. We will put a link to this document in the chat as well. We've got another green working group meeting tomorrow, so there's an opportunity in all your spare time between today and tomorrow potentially to have a read of this document, because it'd be good to get some sort of feel on whether people think this is a good starting base for a framework document.
And yes, I read it.
I think that basically the discussion that we need to have tomorrow, it will be very much oriented towards to the questions and at least the open issues there, probably others, is about, because for sure as Rob was saying before, the modeling and the understanding of the semantics of what we are intending to model need to go. The idea is to go in parallel, because we want to produce something useful as soon as possible. And well, we need to open this discussion, and we hope this is we believe this is a very good food for thought for tomorrow. Just to look at them, read the draft, bring your ideas for the discussion tomorrow, or well, right now, because we have a little bit of time, don't we?
So it looks like, is it Chi Chung? Are you in the queue? Do you want to speak? Are you remote?
I don't want to be in, I don't want to go accidental, sorry.
Okay, no problems. So next up we have, I think hopefully it's Root, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, and presenting remotely. So let me just set this up.
Hi, everybody. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. Just make sure I get the right slides. Have I got the right? No, one moment. Yeah. And let me just pass control to you as well. So, Root, you should be able to control the moving the slides on remotely from your end.
Yes, thank you, Rob. So, hi, everybody. So, as Rob explained, my name is Ruth Sophia. We have proposed a new draft, still very, very initial. So, the reasons for presenting it to Green are in the draft, but basically the idea relates with energy. I would call it energy sensitivity, so I don't want to call it energy efficiency only. So what we have been working on relates with the need to integrate more energy awareness into the overall networking fabric. And here the idea relates with the way we handle the past, the way we adapt routes. So we are doing, of course, this is related work. We have been exploring this in a specific European project, but then following Green and also following Sustain, both groups, there was this, at least we felt that there was a gap, and that's what I bring today. So basically, the idea is aligned also with the work that Green is doing in terms of telemetry or for energy or collecting information about or bringing energy awareness. But one of the aspects that we feel is that energy is being handled mostly at the monitoring aspect and not necessarily on how to use it. And on this on our related work, we identified the need to start to do an alignment with the hybrid cloud world, so between networking and the hybrid cloud world. And there, the notions of energy efficiency go, of course, beyond the networking devices. And one of the aspects that we are working on relates with the integration of some form of energy metrics into QoS. So in the draft, we speak about TIFSERV as a potential representative model of QoS. We, of course, know the limitations and where it is used today, but basically our view is that quality of service could integrate some forms of energy metrics, and that would be helpful in terms of routing and scheduling. The forms of energy metrics are not necessarily just energy efficiency of a device, would relate, for instance, to CO2 footprinting or some other aspects that are being collected.
Ruth,
And so in
sorry.
the draft,
So
yeah.
your voice is breaking up a bit. If you're on an external microphone, you can speak any close to that. That might be helpful. I don't know which. Your voice is going up and down a bit, so it's slightly tricky to hear you.
Okay, so what about now?
It's about the same, but if you can't change it, just carry on.
Let me just try quickly. Rob, I'm going to try to speak slower. I think that at the current time to change the mic over the browser is a little bit confusing. Okay, so meaning I will have to shut the session. Okay, go out of the session and return.
I think just try and carry on best you can.
Okay, so the
Good. Can you? Now are you saying something? Can you speak?
Can you hear me better now?
I think at least it's more stable. Go ahead.
Can you hear me better?
Yeah, I would say yes.
Okay, good. So apologies for this. So as I was saying, so I don't know how much you heard, but basically the idea here is to consider how could we bring some form of energy awareness into QoS. And we have used DiffServe as one of the potential models, given that it's one that is most representative. So our intention, of course, is not to revive or to change DiffServe, is actually to reuse it, but to analyze and bring to green how could some form of energy metrics be used in a QoS model. So the draft, this is the first version, of course, and goes over what would be, so why would we need this? Also, what kind of metrics we could use. The metrics are, of course, something that we can explore together with the telemetry draft. In terms of applicability scenarios, what we are bringing is also, so we are not just focusing plainly on the routing fabric or on networking devices, but actually more on telco cloud environments where we know there is this need. So there is the need to adapt the path while applications are being deployed. And of course, there are some assumptions in the draft. One of them is that the SCP is actually respected. So when we mark traffic and transfer traffic across domains, so in multi-tenant environments. So let me focus more on the proposed energy metrics. So here, what we have is actually, again, based on related work, may be aligned with the telemetry draft, which I read also, of course, and we have been analyzing. But what we feel is that we need to go a little bit beyond what is in green, and of course, we can contribute based on this. So, for instance, in terms of the metrics that we have been using and that could be integrated, they relate with, let's say, collecting energy at a link level, at a path level. So that would be an aggregated cost, but also at a node level where the node is not necessarily a networking device. So we have some examples in the draft. Before I go there, let me just explain also in terms of the SCP what we are proposing to do. So here we are not just proposing, we are proposing to use two things. One is an alignment of the existing per hop behaviors already based on DiffServe, where we could, let's say, add some form of energy sensitivity. For instance, if it would be expedited forwarding, possibly energy would be ignored there. But if we want really to save energy, as there is the case, for instance, in industrial IoT, then we could use an experimental code point. So in terms of the draft, to explain also how this could be used, we gave some examples on how we could change, let's say, or adapt the path. So for instance, we could want to minimize link energy consumption. So this would be the normal and most used behavior, or optimize the let's say the energy efficiency in terms of energy and load. So here is what we are alerting is actually to these mixed environments where the computational part needs also to be taken into consideration when we do the adaptation of the routes. In the draft, you have some examples. For instance, on the right-hand side in the figure that you have source and destination nodes, so very simple examples still, two routers, R1 and R2, and then you see also C, so A, B, C, and D. These would be access routers or edge nodes. So this would be, for instance, in what we call on the telco cloud world, these would be gateways, for instance. They can still be access routers, but actually they do more. They do the bridge between, for instance, software-defined networking and Kubernetes, so at the control plane. And so this means that the intention would be to have a way to influence the path that is aligned with what we do today in routing, but that would allow the routers also to do some decisions based on energy efficiency. In this initial draft, we provide you with some initial design considerations. Of course, there are lots of issues, right? How would we handle the SCP spoofing? What would happen? What would be the aspects that we would have to handle in terms of telemetry? Some potential manipulation, given that we are also collecting or proposing to collect energy coming not necessarily just from let's say an environment, an AS, or multiple ASs belonging to the same tenant. So meaning we start, but of course we need help in analyzing potential control plane manipulation. So this is my last slide. Of course, this is an initial draft and it's related work, but we would be interested in discussing with others. So we had some, at least some feedback in interest on the topic, not necessarily on the draft. And the idea would be how to go ahead. So some parts of the draft, of course, may be integrated into other drafts. One example is the type of metrics and telemetry. But we are going to continue with this work in terms of related work. We expect to have code on this by the end of the week, the year, sorry, that could be used in one of the projects that we are doing. So this means capturing of energy metrics is something that we already have as code. Injecting it as QoS to a scheduler at the, let's say, at the hybrid cloud in level is also something that will be available. And we expect also to have some actions on how this could be integrated into a model and then fed to adaptation of routes. So my contact is here, and of course, I would welcome questions. Thank you.
Okay, so now it's time for any questions. Mahesh, do you want to speak?
Yeah, Mahesh speaking as a contributor. So in addition to the work groups that you mentioned up there, I would suggest maybe the routing working group where they are considering modeling work for QoS. So that would be one working group I would suggest you go. So first of all, very interesting concept. So thank you for bringing the work forth. When I think of DiffServe and QoS, generally I think in terms of the definition of course, marking, metering, and policing. So it's very interesting that you're using metrics as a way to decide how to route the traffic. So I certainly look forward to reading the draft and trying to understand how the concept would work within the DiffServ proposal. Thank you.
So Rick, yes, thank you for presenting. So we had some discussion beforehand when you requested to present in the Green Working Group, and then we spoke to the ADs for this work around some other ones as to whether this work is directly in scope for green, and we think it's probably not. It's out of scope for Green Working Group. However, we think this work may be of interest to the IETF more broadly, and it was agreed with the area directors that presenting in green was the right thing to do. I'm going to do a quick show of hands to see if people have a broader interest that this work is interesting and we should try and progress this work within the IETF. So not necessarily in this working group, but within the IETF itself. So if somebody says no, they're willing to come to the mic line and indicate why not, that might also be interesting. But again, it's up to you. Right, so I think that's enough to give a good indication. So I'm reading like a support of like 30, 34 in terms of thinking this is interesting work and we should be looking at this. 17 of no opinion and 1 against. So I think it's up for us to chat with the area directors to try and figure out potentially how this work progresses forward within the IETF to see if there's a path we can make that work. Roland, do you want to quickly speak?
Just a short comment. I haven't read the draft, but as far as I remember, so the DiffServ model is, let's say, a hop-by-hop behavior and decision, and then you need to ensure, let's say, how, if you want to have really an end-to-end routing, complies with this. As a first comment, I'm a little bit struggling, but the idea, let's say, to give a recommendation, okay, that also for, let's say, energy efficiency, we have a new category or classification or recommendation. I think that's good, but at the moment I'm struggling a little bit with this hop-by-hop behavior and already implemented things. And for me, as far as I see in our implementation, it is, let's say, the queuing is different or orthogonal to, let's say, the routing. And I need to read the draft, but this is just something which I'm struggling at the moment. But in principle, an interesting idea. That's just what I say.
Okay.
So let me, sorry, I don't want to steal much time, but let me just explain why we came to green and not to the routing part. Okay, so what we are proposing is not to address energy metrics just for the routing. We believe that this should be integrated into KOS because it actually could impact other forms. Okay, so in our case, for instance, we use it for scheduling, not at the forwarding or routing level, but for other purposes, scheduling of tasks. So this means that if we would have this on a QoS model, we could mark traffic and we could use it for different purposes, right? And today energy is similar to any other metric that we use, like latency or bandwidth.
Sorry, I need to cut the mic line there because we need to move on to the next presentation. So could you take this discussion to the list? I think it'd be fine to have a discussion about where this work should progress as well, initially in green, and we can progress it from there as well. Thank you. Thank you, Rick, for presenting. So last up for today, I think we've got Jinming, who's presenting remotely. Just get the slides up.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Hello, Green Group. Hello, Green Working Group.
You should have slide control.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, everyone. This is Jimmy. I'll introduce our relevant results and progress about the energy efficiency routing. With the energy consumption of network devices have become increasingly prominent, and this leads to a rise in operators' operating costs, especially electricity fees. The Green Working Group currently focuses on defining network energy consumption terminologies, formulating young modules, and managing and optimizing energy efficiency architectures. However, the design of energy consumption aware routing has not yet been included in the existing charter. For this reason, we have submitted the relevant drafts to working groups, LSR, IDR, and Spring. But we believe that it is necessary to report our current work progress to the Green Working Group to better promote the standardization of energy efficiency routing. Next, I'll briefly introduce our core research context, content. In draft Liu Spring SR policy energy efficiency, we propose an architecture and mechanism for energy consumption aware routing to SR networks. The core is to build a complete process of energy consumption perception pass calculation, policy execution, which is which can be divided into 3 steps. The first step is the definition of multi-energy consumption indicators. We classify energy consumption indicators from 2 dimensions, multi-level and static dynamic attributes. By multi-level, it can be divided into 3 levels: interface, board, and node. Among them, node level and interface level indicators are most frequently used in routing. Node level energy consumption is easy to obtain directly, while interface level energy consumption needs to be average from board level data. By attribute, they can be divided into inherent static parameters of devices and real-time dynamic parameters. For example, the watts per gigabyte indicators includes maximum energy consumption and real-time energy consumption. When a device is not forwarding traffic, the real-time energy consumption is meaningless. So and the maximum energy consumption will be used for pass calculate instead. And the second step is the collection of energy consumption data. We suppose 2 collection methods. One is through the extension of routing protocols enabling IGP and the BGP to report energy consumption data, while transmission interdomain topology. And the interdomain, we extension the BGP-LS protocol to achieve the collection of energy consumption information. And the other is through tools such as SNMP, NetConf, and telemetry, where network nodes directly and send energy consumption information to the controller. And the third step is pass calculation and distribution based on energy consumption. After obtaining energy consumption data, the controller will screen pass according to preset policy, such as excluding nodes or links with excessive energy consumption, or directly selecting the path with the lowest energy consumption. Of course, to avoid the network flu caused by frequent switching, we have set a threshold mechanism. Switching is triggered only when the energy consumption of the new path is more than 20% lower than that of the current path. Finally, the optimized path will be distributed to the head-end node through protocols such as BGP or PCP.
Jiming, if
And-
you're able to move along a bit more quickly, because we've only got a couple of minutes. We're already sort of running over the session, so that'd be great, please.
Okay. Here are some metrics we mentioned in the drafts, and this is the IGP and BGP extension drafts, which we in this draft we mentioned the two methods. One is centralized routing, and the other is distributed routing. At present, we still face some unsolved problems, including how to improve the accuracy of device energy consumption evacuation to reduce the and how to balance the frequency of data reporting and explore more energy efficiency routing principle and verify the actual effect of the policies. We welcome our colleagues to put forward opinion to join us, and we want to absorb suggestions from the WG. Okay, thank you. That's all.
Okay, Jim, thank you very much for presenting. So in summary, I think this is work that's really focused on other working groups. We thought it'd be interesting to make people aware here. So thank you for doing that. But I think the discussions and things will go to those other working groups where the drafts are currently aimed for. So thank you.
Yeah.
And I think,
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if you've got any other more comments at the end of this session, but otherwise, thank you, everyone. I think we've had a good session today. We've almost kept it on schedule, not quite, but hopefully haven't taken too much of your time for lunch. Thanks.
The problem is that they are already defining metrics and these bytes, gigabytes and things like that.
I'm not sure about the flavor stuff.
No, exactly. But this is, I was going to say, well, you have made whatever the decisions you want, but it's a little bit. Yeah. I'm going to take note to find a thing to do. Yeah, well, I have a meeting with the security ADs and then another meeting, so I brought a sandwich. My daughter